That's fine.
That should be enough. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and I have a fabulous presentation for you today. Who doesn't love pizza? Well, Chef Julia Dunaway is one of the premier plant-based culinary instructors, and all week we've been talking about the bundle. And one of the questions I've asked every guest is, what product do you like in the bundle that isn't yours? And unanimously, everyone said the classes that were submitted by Chef Julia Dunaway, which are sourdough bread classes, which can be turned into sourdough bread pizzas. And she's going to be making one today with fresh vegetables and Fennel Tofu Crumbles. Never heard of those? They sound amazing. If you'd like to support her with all the great work she does, her link below to get it from her will be there. You've only got about 13 more hours to get it. So why not get it from Julia? Please welcome her to the show. Hey, thank you for putting such a great product in the show. You are such a good teacher. The way you teach and break things down, it's so, did you have like experience teaching before you became a chef? Because you're very good at presenting
Well,
material.
Chef, for 35 years, I was a clinical social worker and social work administrator. So I did a lot of group therapy and speaking to, groups about hospice or social work in the prison system. So I was never really a teacher, but I was a therapist. So I just became like a chef social worker. So now I have my
I like
audience of
I like that chef social worker. So if you want to jump right into the recipe, great. But if you also want to talk about the bundle you're offering anybody else's, this is your time.
Okay, well, first let me talk about the bundle briefly and then I'll make my pizza. So I even have some things here. These are all things I made from the bundle. And it's hard to move because there's so much on here. But, I made 12 different things and recorded 12 videos or live streams of recipes from the bundle. And everything from the first one was Snicker bars from Amanda Sick, her Wanna Date. I know you've talked about that before. She had a lot of really good recipes, and I made these peanut butter bars from Carrie Henneman and banana muffins from Lori Landry. I made chocolate pudding from the Inflammation, the Sweet Relief book by Sid Nodder. I made Ramses Bravo's salsa and turned it into tortilla soup. And then yesterday I made Kathy Hester's chocolate pudding in the microwave. This is my microwave any day container. And I also made Kathy Hester's grits yesterday, so I still have those. I'm going to eat those after the show is over, maybe. And then here's my bread I made yesterday. It's my seeded sourdough bread.
Oh my
And I
God,
love this.
that is so beautiful. My guess is it's not gluten-free though, right?
No, it's not. But,
Do you think you'll
a
do you think you'll ever
lot,
be able to do what you did with this class and make it for us that have to be gluten-free, that aren't just trying to be difficult?
I could try it. One thing about sourdough bread is it's supposed to be less. I know some people can't tolerate any gluten, but it's for some people that are gluten sensitive. Sourdough bread can be less difficult for them to digest because of the fermentation. So anyway, but I know there are ways to make gluten-free sourdough bread. It's been done, so it's something I could actually look into. But anyway, the bundle I posted today on my Chef Julia Facebook page about the dozen things that I've made. I made like a picture collage. So if you want to see all the things I made, this is just part of them, because some things I couldn't say, like I made Chef Val's macrobiotic miso soup from her Healing Cancer book, and that was really good, but I ate it all. That was last week. And
You know,
then I was
I
gone for a few days.
I think it's really helpful what you did to show people because they can understand like all the cool things in the bundle that are easy to make and just delicious.
Yeah, I think so. And like, I found two things that I want to make today. So I'm going to do a thing tonight. I did it last year, maybe the year before. I do like a marathon, telethon kind of a thing where about 7 o'clock Central Time, I'm going to go on live to YouTube and Facebook, and I'm going to show everybody what I've made, do a tasting, but I'm going to make Tim Kaufman's fried potatoes because I saw the recipe today and I said, oh, I'm going to make that. And then I might make another thing by Amanda Sick, and it was cookie dough. It was edible cookie dough. And it was really easy. And I thought, oh, that's something you could keep in your fridge and just take a scoop, every few days and then stick it in the freezer and put it in balls. So I may make 2 more things. I don't know. But it's a great bundle this year. And I did some interviews. I was interviewed by Nicole Fogelman, and she has this great fermentation book. And I love fermentation because sourdough. And then Japanese people, we eat natto, which is fermented soybeans, miso, and all kinds of, fermented foods in the Japanese culture. So I've always loved fermented foods, but now there's such a big interest in them for gut health. So I was happy to talk to her. I talked to Chef Val, and she made my bread successfully. So she was real excited because she'd had trouble making sourdough bread. And Sid Nodder, I love Sid Nodder because she also was really interested in making her own sourdough bread or something. And there are so many questions. And the main question I get is about the starter. So, I have my jar of starter here, but the big question everybody has is, where do you get starter? How do you make starter? What is starter? So I cover that in my class. So if you get the bundle, I do a really intense two-hour videos on making sourdough bread. And I go through it really slowly because what I found is that there's a lot of content on the internet about how to make sourdough, but a lot of it's scattered. It's like, do this, do that, do this, do that. Nobody agrees with anybody, and it's complicated. It's hard to figure out, what am I supposed to follow? So I took several workshops with a master bread maker in our town in Fort Worth. His name is Trent Shaskin, and he has a company called Icon Bread, and he makes the most popular sourdough bread. He sells out at the farmer's market within a couple hours every single week, even though he's there every week. He sells out always. There's a line, people get it, and it's done. It's the best tasting sourdough bread. So I took his classes twice.
Wow.
And he's coming.
Even better tasting than the San Francisco sourdough bread?
Well, it's different. The San Francisco sourdough bread is very tangy. And it's that way because they have a certain sourdough that they've been using, a starter they've been using for whatever centuries. But, the sourdough starter from your area, because the sourdough the starter is made from natural yeast and bacteria in your environment. So different environments have different tasting sourdough. So we can never replicate San Francisco sourdough unless we bought their starter. But even then, it still changes. And I have tried buying their starter before, and it was okay, but it was very complicated on what they advised you to do to get it to activate. So I never really got good success with that. So I tell people how to make their own starter and how to source it, because you can just buy it from King Arthur Bread Company and it comes live, and you can feed it immediately and have your own jar of salsa within a day and use that. I've done that before when I first got started. I'm preparing to make my dough. So let's see, I'm going to move this out of the way. But yes, please get the bundle so you can make all these delicious things that now I can give to my friends. I can eat some of them, whatever, it just depends. My husband's been tasting everything and giving it thumbs up. Okay, here's my dough. I made my dough yesterday, and you have to let it ferment overnight. In fact, you could ferment it for a couple of days. I'm going to get some. This is semolina flour. I'm putting it on my hands because otherwise the dough is really sticky, and then I'm going to coat both sides of the dough. And this is whole wheat dough. It has a really nice color. It's nutty. It's just absolutely delicious. And the first thing we do is, and the fermentation gives it that extra depth of flavor. So when you eat my sourdough pizza, it has a kind of a tang of sourdough to it. It's got flavor. So what I'm doing is I'm stretching it out, but I need to stretch it out big enough to fit my 12-inch parchment round, because one of the tricks I found out was putting it on a parchment paper round keeps it from sticking to your pizza peel. And that's a problem that I had when I did pizza classes at my house, that nobody would follow the instructions. The instructions were not to put too many things on your pizza because it wouldn't slide off the peel. And the pizza peel is this thing. It's what you slide the pizza on. And if you overload the pizza with too many things, it doesn't come off the peel. It just sticks and it turns into a giant mess. What I'm doing right now is I'm stretching the pizza dough. I think you've probably seen this in pizza places all the time. but this is a gentle way of doing it. You cannot use a rolling pin, okay? You can't roll the dough out. Well, it's too sticky. It's just not the right texture. And then I want to stretch this out a little bit more to fit on my parchment paper because I want it to be a 12-inch pizza. That's what it's supposed to be. I could make it smaller, but then it would be kind of thick. And I don't really want a super thick pizza. So you can just press it out till it comes to the edge, and that's it. That's very simple. And the semolina flour keeps your hands from sticking to it, but don't overdo it because semolina flour is kind of grainy and you don't want tons of that on your pizza. So that's why I have it on the bottom. It's not on the pizza. Okay, so now I've got this beautiful dough. It was really easy. You saw how I stretched it out. And we have to put some sauce on here. And you can make your own pizza sauce with just tomato sauce and, garlic powder and a few simple ingredients. You don't have to add a lot of salt. You don't have to add any oil, or you can buy it. There are several brands out that have no oil. Some of them are higher sodium than others. So if you can find one that's kind of low in the sodium, you can just get that. It makes it a lot easier. But look at the label because some of them do have added olive oil. It's easy just to make it. It's just basic tomato sauce. Now in my recipe packet, I also have recipes for pesto and lemon cashew sauce and different other pizza sauces. And also the favorite from one of the people that came and helped me with my pizza class when I did the recording. And also I did an in-person pizza class and about 15 people came. And they paid, for a regular class, they came, everybody made pizza. And she came and helped me with that. And then I also had the entire Fort Worth, Texas chapter of the Texas Chefs Association over for a monthly meeting. And 20 people came into my house and each person made their own pizza. I was out on the grill back there. I have a grill and a pizza oven. And I was back there, making their pizza. They would bring it to me. I would make it, give it to them. They would bring it in the house, cut it up. And these were all professional chefs. And I was kind of nervous about it because, these people, some of them are executive chefs at country clubs and, big places. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm teaching them how to make something.
That sounds
But
amazing. That sounds amazing.
They were so excited. It was good. Okay, so then we got the sauce. And but my friend's favorite was the romesco sauce. So it has almonds and it has such a good flavor. Okay, so now I have my pizza cheese, which is kind of a thick, spoonable cashew cheese blend. And I just like to kind of make dollops of it around because it's too soft to shred. It's too liquid to shred, but it has tapioca flour in it. So once you cook it, it gets kind of stretchy and thick. It gets thicker because of the cooking process. So then you kind of feel like you have something cheesy when you eat your pizza. So I just make dollops all around like that. So then, it's just kind of spread out. You can put it around and, drizzle it around in a circle or whatever you want to do. So the other ingredients I have for my pizza, I'll show you my tray up close. So I have all these vegetables. And the reason I like this is because I want the pizza to be healthy. I don't want it just to be a bunch of fatty sauce and nothing else, like some people eat cheese pizza. But for being plant-based, I like to have a lot of vegetables on my food. So I've got the cheese sauce and I also made tofu crumbles. And the tofu crumbles have fennel, Italian seasoning mix, paprika, a little bit of coconut aminos, a little bit of soy sauce. They have a lot of things in them to give them a lot of flavor. And then I bake them in the oven so they get kind of crispy. And there's something about them that they taste kind of like what you remembered if you ever ate Italian sausage. They kind of have that meaty taste. Now, if you're a plant-based person who doesn't want that taste, well, just leave them off. But most people I know, they miss things like pepperoni and sausage because they once loved those things, especially my husband, because I'm trying to get him to eat more plant-based. And he used to only eat pizza that had, pepperoni on it, but he'll eat my plant-based versions of, sausage and different things. He likes that. Then I also love a lot of vegetables. So I cooked some mushrooms. Raw mushrooms are a turn off. And Dr. Furman always says, cook your mushrooms. Also, there's not enough time in the oven for these mushrooms to really cook. They'd still have that kind of pale, raw appearance. And so I just cook them the way that Anne and Jane Esselstyn tell you to do it. They take a big skillet, they make a single layer of mushroom slices, and then they leave it alone for several minutes and don't touch it. And then what happens is the mushrooms cook and they get like lightly sauteed, no water, no oil, nothing, and they come out perfect every time. So I learned that from watching their YouTube channel because I always, try to stir them up and mix them up and mess around with them too much. Now I'm putting on some little bell pepper rounds. These are those kind of bell peppers you get at the store. They come in a big bag, organic. They're usually red, yellow, and orange. So I got those and they taste really great. They're sweet. And I slice everything super thin so that you don't get any big chunks. That's one of my pet peeves at pizza places is if you get a veggie pizza, it's piled with gigantic pieces of vegetables, so many that you can't really taste that it's pizza. Okay, and there's thin slices of red onion, which I love onions. So if you don't, just anything I put on here is something that you can put, you can change. You can put zucchini. I have asparagus. My asparagus is growing. And yesterday I went out and I saw all these new asparagus coming up. So I picked some and I thought, I could put those on my pizza, but I'm not going to. I don't want to overload it. I have some thin sliced organic tomatoes. They're so thin that some of them kind of tore, but they're supposed to be just like super thin. And I think that gives it a good fresh taste, the fresh tomatoes. I'm not going to put too many on here. I'm going to spread them out. But I think you can see from what I'm doing that really you can put whatever you want on a pizza. There's no recipe for pizza that you have to follow. And then last but not least, I have some serrano chilies. And serrano chilies are kind of spicy. Most people would prefer jalapenos, but these are the ones that I like because I like it super spicy. But if you don't put that on there. All right, so then I have some things that I'll put on later. Like I have basil. You can't put on basil until after it's cooked because it will turn really an ugly color, but we can't put on a few greens. So these are super greens. It's baby kale, baby spinach, baby chard, that kind of thing you get in a big bag or box at the supermarket. And I'm not going to put too many on here, but this makes me feel good to have greens on my pizza, just because I like to try to eat as many greens as I can in a day. So the next part is we got to get it in the oven. And my oven's been set at 500, but I'm going to turn it down to 460 or 475. $460 is the temperature I used for the sourdough bread. Okay, now I've got to get this on the pizza peel. And it's really easy with the parchment paper because I can just, pick up the edge of the parchment paper and there I've got it on the pizza peel. So the easy part about making my pizza is I'm going to slide it onto the pizza stone that's been in my oven warming up for the last hour. When I use my gas grill outside, I put my pizza stone, it's just a big round stone, on the grill way ahead of time, heat my grill, and I do the same thing on the gas grill. I love the flavor on the gas grill because I'll add some smoke chips like hickory smoke or mesquite smoke in a little smoker box. So then my pizza will have that wood-fired oven flavor, which tastes really good. Okay, so, it's kind of in the distance, but you can see my pizza stone down here. I'm just going to slide this on there. And in 8 minutes, I'm going to set my timer. In 8 minutes, the pizza will be ready. That's very quick. And then what I do is I take this pan, and if I have a bunch of people over, I tell them to throw away the semolina flour and bring me their clean pan back to the grill or back to the oven, and I put their pizza on this, and then they stand in line to cut it up on the cutting board. And that's a good way to do it with the crowd. Since it's just me here today, I can just, when the pizza's done, I'll put it on my cutting board, this cutting board, and then I'll cut it and I'll show you how I'm going to serve it, which is also kind of a plant-based thing that I like to do that's a little different, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes. So now that that's in the oven, Chef AJ, if there's anything you'd like me to discuss or cover,
I have some
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
They're in the chat. So Mona would like to know, how long can you keep sourdough starter and not use it?
All right, so with your starter, what you're supposed to do is you have to feed it at least once a week. And by feeding it, that process is I take a scale, a food scale, in a bowl, and I measure out 100 grams of starter into my bowl. I add 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. I mix that up, and then I get rid of the discard, which is left, whatever's left in my jar. You can use it and make things with it. Some people make baked goods and stuff with the discard, but I usually just throw it away because I don't bake that much stuff. I clean the jar out. I put the starter back in it. I let it sit out until it doubles. Like this is my starter from yesterday, so it's still very active. You can see it's got a ton of bubbles in it. Still from, it's been in the refrigerator and it still is very active, but it started out at the level of this yellow rubber band. I don't know if you could see it. It's about right here. And it doubled. And once it doubles, then I stick it back in the fridge for the next week. If you leave town or something and you're going to be gone for a while, you have to do something with your starter or it will get kind of icky. It'll develop a lot of it's kind of a bad smelling liquid on it, and you don't want that to happen. Sometimes it will grow bacteria and then you have to get rid of it. So what we do if we're leaving town is take your starter and add a lot more flour to it and make it like a real hard clay, and then stick it back in the jar. And then when you get back, take some out, feed it just as usual, and it'll start getting active again. But that kind of makes it more dormant. So that's what I do. But yeah, starter is like a baby, it's like a pet. You can't just forget about it. If you do, and a lot of people do, they leave it in their fridge and they forget to feed it. And then they think about it a month later and it's all this moldy, icky stuff and they lost their starter. So, I've been really good about keeping mine going for like 2 years and I've never had any problems. But, like I said, I have to make sure I'm thinking about it. And I have a sign in my kitchen on my cabinet. It says, feed the starter every Friday and water the plants. So, that helps me remember because there have been times where I skipped a week. And then when I got the starter, it kind of had that liquid on top, but it wasn't ruined or anything. I just fed it and it was fine again. So yeah, you have to take care.
I think about like Little Shop of Horrors, Feed Me Seymour. So yours is Feed Me Starter. So let me read some of the questions and comments. Ari's saying, wonderful deal on the ebook bundle. Thank you. And we think so too. So we're wondering, those that aren't buying it, why aren't you buying it? I mean, why wouldn't you want almost $5,000 worth of stuff for $49? I don't get it. So we have some nice comments. Monica saying Chef Julia's recipes are consistently delicious. And then we have a question about what if you don't have a pizza oven or a pizza stone? Can you still do this?
A pizza oven. You can use a regular oven like I'm using today. And a pizza stone is really, for this type of pizza, it makes the bottom crust turn out nice and brown. It makes it a lot better. So if on my Amazon store, if you go to Chef Julia Dunaway Amazon store, there's a whole section on my pizza class. And it has all the equipment that I use. And maybe you can look at that and maybe get a good deal for a pizza stone. If you put your pizza on just a sheet pan or a pizza pan or something, the bottom is never going to get that nice crispy crust. But that's really the only equipment I would say the two stone and a pizza peel to make really good pizza and the cutter. It's funny because my 22-year-old granddaughter came over Super Bowl Sunday and I made the whole family pizzas and let them make their own. And I put them in the oven and the grill. And she brought a whole pizza home to her roommate. And her roommate said, "This is the best pizza I've ever eaten. How do you do this?" And she said, "Well, Grandma did this and that, and this and that." So then next time I saw them, they both said, "Can you teach us how to make pizza, Grandma?" And so now they went to Trader Joe's and they got Trader Joe's pizza crust because that's easy for them, and sauce. And they want me to come to their apartment using their oven and teach them how to make pizza. And I told them they had to get a pizza stone and a pizza peel. So that's the two things I said they had to get.
Wow,
But
that's
yeah,
amazing.
I was just kind of tickled by that.
I wish I had a grandma like you. Man, you're something. So Colleen says, did you have parchment paper on the bottom of the pizza?
Yes, there was a round 12-inch parchment sheet, and it's perfect for pizza. And I stretched out the dough to fit the 12-inch piece of parchment paper. Now, what I can do is I can go in about halfway through and I can lift the pizza up and remove the parchment paper, and the crust will get even crispier. I'm not going to do that today because, I don't want to just be bending over with my butt hanging out. So inelegant.
You can turn your camera
Doesn't
off.
make that,
That's funny. Colleen wants to
it
know is
doesn't make that big of a difference.
when you had all those chefs over, did any of them add pizza to their menu after tasting yours?
No, I don't think so. Maybe they made it at home, though. They told me they made it for their family because, they work in places that there's, make your own pizza doesn't really fit their menu, but they might. I don't know. Maybe they did. They all were super interested. I gave everybody their own little tub of sourdough starter. And one of my chef friends who owns a restaurant, she wants to make sourdough bread so bad. And she keeps asking me to teach her. And I'm having that big famous chef over here on March the 29th doing a 6-hour pizza class, just like the other two I took. And I told her, I said, you just need to come to the pizza class. And he's such a good teacher. He goes through it's 6 hours because it takes that much time to make sourdough bread, 6 hours from start to finish before you can put it in the refrigerator to ferment overnight. And that process is mixing the dough with the starter, letting it sit for 30 minutes, then stretching and folding it about 4 times every 30 minutes. And then it goes into a state called bulk fermentation. And during bulk fermentation, the dough it gets bigger. It increases by about 30 to 50%. 30% is about right. But it gets kind of jiggly and bubbly, and it's not sticky anymore. And when it's ready because it has a totally different character from when you first started working with it. And then you can shape it into rounds, like my bread was round, like this. Shape it into round and put it in a special basket, let it ferment overnight, and then bake it. So that was my video yesterday. If you want to see me do that process of baking the bread, I did a video yesterday and it shows me getting it out of the refrigerator, scoring it, baking it, taking it out, and all that stuff. So you can see that that's on, I put that on my YouTube channel too. And then I made a bunch of toppings and made a savory version of sourdough bread and sweet version. And I used my special bread slicer. I have a sourdough bread slicer that I use to make the bread come out in even slices all the time. It's an old fashioned hand crank thing
Is that in your
from
Amazon
Germany. It's the
store?
best.
Julia, is that in your
Yeah, I
Amazon
think so.
store?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Because I buy gluten-free sourdough
Yeah.
bread here, which is really expensive, but Charles has so much trouble cutting it because it's like maybe a little gummy. That is really cool. Thank you. Hey, so question about the starter. Where did that question go? It was something about how soon after you make it. Yeah, here it is. I saw it. It was something about how soon can you use the new starter once you feed it?
Okay, well, you have to understand that the starter has to reach a state of readiness. So like for me, let's say I just got this out of the fridge and I want to make bread. I'm not going to make the bread probably until late this evening or maybe even tomorrow if my starter's kind of inactive. So I'll feed it usually in the morning and then I'll feed it again that afternoon and it might be ready, but usually I do it the day before. So I would say the day before you're going to make bread, feed your starter. You probably have to feed it twice for it needs to get twice as tall and have a domed kind of top, and you'll see a lot of active bubbles. Like even my starter today has a ton of bubbles in it. And then what you do is you do the float test. You take a spoonful of starter and put it in a bowl of water. And if it floats to the top, that's a good sign it's ready. If your starter sinks to the bottom, then it's not ready. I've got to check the pizza timer went off. It's in brown. So the ready pizza you can see it. The crust is brown on the edges. You can tell it's cooked. And then also I lift it up. And you see now the bottom is brown. It's not a wimpy, pale, doughy color. It's brown, it's crispy. So now is the point where I can put my basil on it, some fresh basil, because the basil will start turning brown as soon as it's on something hot. So right before you eat it, put your basil on it. This is super fresh basil I got yesterday. And then we can also add some other things like plant parm, which is cashews with lemon and a little nutritional yeast. We could add some of that. You don't have to, but I always keep this in my fridge for pasta dishes. Another thing I love to add is Calabrian chilies, and these are the real thing, not the red chili flakes in the grocery store that had lost their flavor a long time ago. These are very robust. They're true Italian Colombian chilies. And there we go. Then we just have to cut it. I have a board here, so just slide it onto a cutting board. And then I'm going to cut one piece, one good sized piece, and then show you some different ways that you can eat your pizza.
Julie, I just want to
the
say
thing about this is,
sorry. I just want to say I don't like mushrooms, but the best way I've ever tasted them is the way they cook them in True North. We're getting the double talk again, but they bake them in the oven and they're phenomenal.
Oh, okay. How do they bake them in the oven?
I forget. I'll see if I can text Ramses.
About it.
I'll see if I can text Ramses about it.
All right, so here's a slice of pizza, and I just want to show you a good way to eat it, because we talk about calorie density, and and if you look at it, you can see the crust is kind of risen. It doesn't puff up like white flour does, but it does kind of expand and get this really nice, volume to the dough, so it has a nice texture. So you can eat a couple of pieces of pizza like this, and then you still might want more. Or another thing you can do, and this is kind of like adding volume to your food. We talk about, lower the calorie density of the food. We can just take some of these greens and we can turn our pizza into a mountain of pizza. One slice, and we can put some onions on here, bell peppers, mushrooms, a tomato slice, basil, whatever you like. We can just put it all on our pizza. And then I like to use this California balsamic, some kind of vinegar. This is a hickory smoked vinegar, and put that on the top, the balsamic vinegar. And then what you have here is you have kind of like a pizza salad. And so you have your pizza with a lot of vegetables on the top. And then when you eat it, you can use with fork and knife. You can just pick it up. I'm not going to take a giant bite of it, but you have a mountain of pizza instead of a skinny little pizza slice. And then, two of these slices is a lot more satisfying than two flat pieces of pizza that don't have much on it. So I kind of like to eat my pizza this way. Probably not that many other people do, but you might, especially if you're trying to lose a few pounds and don't want to eat high calorie density food, but still want to enjoy pizza. A couple slices of pizza goes a long way if you pile it with the vegetables. So
it's been a long time since I've eaten a California pizza kitchen, but they used to do this where they would put like a whole salad on a pizza.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a popular trend. And so
I have the recipe. Thank you, Susanna.
Okay. I have the recipe. Thank you, Susanna.
So the way that True North makes the mushrooms, which is the only way I'll eat mushrooms, which would be perfect for your pizza, is slice a pan full of criminy brown mushrooms. Bake 20 to 30 minutes in a 350 degree oven.
20 to 30 minutes in 350 degree.
That's it.
And they're so good. And I hate mushrooms, but I really.
And they're so good. And I hate mushrooms, but I will ignore.
Okay, I'll try it.
Yeah. Well, apparently my echo is being bad again, so I don't talk too much.
My echo is being bad again, so I don't talk too much.
Okay. Is it when I'm talking, you hear the echo too?
No, it's just me. So I don't know how to fix it right into
No,
the.
it's just
so-
me,
so,
so I don't know how to.
Tell
fix
me
it
how much
in
longer
the-
you'd like to
Okay,
talk
so,
and I want to be
Tell me how
quiet.
much longer you'd like to talk and I want to be quiet.
Well, I've made the pizza, it's done. And I just, I know that if you really are interested in getting into the sourdough world, it's so much fun, especially when you're using healthy whole grain flours and you make it yourself. You can enjoy bread, oil-free bread. And, I use the best flours I can get from a mill in Dripping Springs, Texas, where they have farmers grow organic whole grain, whole wheat. Well, wheat's whole wheat, but they grow wheat around the country and they source it from these small farms and they mill it at their mill, and you can order stuff from them online called Barton Springs Mill, and the link is in the pizza and the bread class. And that makes all the difference in the world, having this high quality, organic, freshly milled flour that's whole grain. And then you can play around with it because they have flours for different uses. So to make a pizza, I'm using a white whole wheat flour. So it's a whole wheat flour, but it tends to be a lot lighter. So then the pizza dough is lighter. And then when I make my breads, I use a combination of 2 or 3 different flours that have different characteristics. So there's a lot you can do when you get involved in making your own sourdough stuff. It's not that difficult if you have good instructions, which is why I was determined to do a class and teach people how to do everything from the starter to feeding it to making their own bread and doing everything step by step instead of what I had to do, which was, read all these books and search on all these websites and take a couple of workshops. And then, I had things that worked and things that didn't work. And it was a lot of effort, but I tried to make it easy for you by putting it into the format of the videos and the very detailed, my recipe packets. This is my pizza recipe packet, and it's several pages long, front and back, because I give you the full recipe and the instructions. It's not just a cryptic, short form, do this, do that. Like I'm assuming that you know what to do, because I get real frustrated when I get recipes that the writer assumes you already know what they're doing, but you really don't. So, I hope you get the bundle. If you just went online to get my classes, you pay a lot more than the cost of the bundle. So if you're interested in my classes alone, that would be a big value for getting the bundle, but you're also getting, you and Lisa talked last night on your video about how many actual recipes are in the bundle, Chef AJ. What was it? How many?
It was over 1,000.
It was over 1,000.
Yeah, so, this is just one example of somebody's contribution, but 1,000 recipes, it's just not something you can get anywhere else. And you don't have to be overwhelmed with it. You can pick and choose the ebooks or courses that you want to take or that you want to look at, and then download those. You don't have to download everything. So, and that makes it more manageable for some people. If they say, okay, these are 10 things out of 70 that I really am interested in, I'm going to only download those 10 things because I know I'll never look at the other 60. So, that's a way to do it too. So I think that's it, Chef AJ. I think I've gone, way longer.
Well, thank you. I keep talking to you, but I know we're having
Thank you
audio
for having me
problems.
on.
Thank you. I keep talking to you, but I know we're having audio problems.
Okay.
So thank you, Julia. Get the bundle from Julia and come back in 2
So
minutes.
thank you, Julia. Get the bundle from Julia and come back in 2 minutes.
Dr. Nikki Davis is going to be making some kind of hash brown.
Dr. Nikki
You won't
Davis is
wanna
going to be
miss.
making